good evening. And welcome to Have I Got News for You. I used to be John Pertwee. In the news this week, during the second half of a home game at Newcastle United, the temperature hits nearly 10 degrees. Bird's Eye reveal the secret process behind their new cheesy fish fingers. And in a New York restaurant, everyone's happy to split the bill equally until one diner suddenly realizes he was the only one who didn't order a starter. On Ian Hislop's team tonight, Deputy Leader of the Lib Dems, described in the newspapers recently as Gordon Brown's most trenchant critic. Not while I'm alive, he ain't. Please welcome Vince Cable MP. And with Paul Merton tonight is a comedian who recently said that the media present us with an unfolding picture of a world populated by life-addled celebrities and sound-bite-spewing demagogues. Yes, well, that just about describes us all, I suppose, yes. Chris Addison. In round one, we cover the stories of global significance. Paul and Chris, take a look at this.
That poor vampire.
Yes, this is Jonathan. It's Jonathan Ross. There's Russell leaving his house. This has been a big fuss. I'm at a bit of a disadvantage over this because I don't listen to his radio show, so I was no way I could actually hear what was said in any shape or form.
So how on earth did you find out what was said, Paul? How did you do that?
Well, luckily, I tuned into the many media that was available. Oh, yeah. And this phone call that was put into Andrew Sachs, I was able to hear it over and over again.
So you're in the lucky position of being able to be offended time after time after time.
At my own convenience.
That's absolutely wonderful. And that just goes to show what multi-platform broadcasting is really all about.
Exactly.
This is the outrage over two highly paid BBC stars behaving like overgrown schoolboys. Hang on, that's Little Britain, isn't it?
Two people complained who had heard it.
Well, they've said there are 27,000 complaints, but most of those are me.
Are they?
Yeah, I quite fancy Friday Night Chat Show, and it's seeing the...
I do all Jonathan's jobs, but I'll do film, whatever it's called. I know a bit about film.
72.
How the talk he's doing. So, yeah, I'll do the same jobs as him, but I'll do it for 50 quid less.
I saw the headline, it said Jonathan Ross suspended, and I thought, well, that'll please the Mail.
I thought they meant they'd hanged him.
Absolutely, that's where I was going. But if we go back in time, we'll try it again. Yes, I saw that Jonathan Ross had been suspended, and I thought, that'll please the Mail.
I'm nearly getting it, but I want to hear it one more time.
It took about 30,000 complaints for the Beeb to realise that some people might have found this offensive. The Beeb did its usual thing of moving from sort of breathless arrogance and indifference to self-flagellation over the course of about 4 days. And eventually the Director-General came home from holiday and thought, actually, this probably isn't a very nice thing to have done.
But is it really a national emergency?
Yes,
Gordon Brown had to be pulled out of an economic summit to give his judgment on all this, isn't it?
Well, it's more important than economic summits. I mean, that's a failure.
Well, the last time we... the last time we went through this drama was when somebody misnamed a cat on Blue Peter. Isn't that right?
Oh.
I mean, we're in serious territory.
And the brilliant thing about Ross and Brand is they seem to have managed to offend the entire country. So the idea that the Guardian obviously felt this was sort of sexist and unpleasant and harassment, and the right-wing papers were against it. He offended old people, he offended young people, he offended just about everybody. And this tidal wave of hatred sort of took the BBC by surprise. You mean we don't pay the licence fee so that you can ring up and say, I had sex with your granddaughter? Is that not cutting-edge comedy? Oh, no, it isn't.
I wonder if people were more concerned about the fact that obviously it is licence fee payers' money being used for this. They've made 4 calls. They're to Barcelona, that's international rates.
Nobody's mentioned the real victim at the heart of this, which is this young woman who came out of a convent and has been traduced, her reputation damaged in this way, and is now taking a firm stand for privacy by selling her story to The Sun.
Well, the satanic sluts are notoriously
I didn't want to go there.
Surely she's got a right to privacy, even if she belongs to a burlesque troupe called the Satanic Sluts. Doesn't change it.
The thing is, at a certain age, one longs to have one's privacy invaded.
There's a show on Radio 2 going, if you fancy it.
When we had Russell Brand on this programme, he said that he hadn't been shown sufficient respect. It's a word perhaps he'll have to relearn.
What's the sign that things have got really bad for Jonathan Ross?
Piers Morgan was fantastically self-righteous in the Mail.
That's right. Jonathan Ross is the worst kind of nasty, gratuitous, insulting, viciously insensitive bully, said Piers Morgan from his glass house.
He's right. But you don't want him to say it.
But it's interesting the way the political stakes were escalated. On Monday, the only politician who could be found to say anything was an anonymous MP who said this is a bit beyond the pale. And then by the end of the week, when there were 30,000 complaints, we were all queuing up 10 deep to express our outrage. And, of course, Gordon came in.
What you have described to me appears to me, get me if I'm wrong, that no MPs are interested, and then the general public tells them they should be interested, and then they are interested. That seems to me the workings of a democracy.
You've got it in one.
Who's comforting Andrew Sack's granddaughter now?
Max Clifford.
Yes.
You keep doing that. It's like being at a séance. We're all sat around this enormous Ouija board and you go, oh,
That's right,
stop doing it.
Come in, running water. Yeah.
She's decided that if Russell Brand is going to make that much money out of her, then she'll make a few bob out of the Sun as well.
Is that a criticism? Is that a criticism?
No, it isn't. It's just saying, once she was in the public eye, presumably she thought, I will go to the Sun and make a little bit of money.
Did you see any of the messages of support on Georgina's Bieber page?
On a what page?
These questions are extraordinary. It's, did you see in the Daily Express? Have you seen her Bebo page? No, of course we haven't.
Listen, Brian said Ross was trying to impress Brand, who, in my opinion, was a complete He did, doesn't he? And Bob said, hi, Georgina. I'm the assistant manager at the Candle Room nightclub in Kirkcaldy, and I'd be very interested in your group making a personal appearance. What did fellow radio presenter Steve Penk have to say?
This is an outrageous example of what can be a very beautiful art form.
Oh, Paul, you're so marvellously intuitive.
Aren't I?
Yes.
I saw him on the telly saying it.
Anything to add to that, eh?
I was having a biscuit at the time. And a cup of tea. While wondering why Andrew Sack's number was always engaged.
He said, this sorry affair devalues the whole currency of prank phone calls. Which other madcap comedian behaved badly at the BBC this week? Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Right, can I ask you a question?
Yes, just about.
OK, because we got some good news. We got some good news about red squirrels last week. Does that mean, do you think, that there'll be many, many more of them in the years to come?
What do you mean, good news? You had good news. What are you talking about?
Well, I was hoping you could tell me, actually, and elaborate on it.
Don't gasp at me.
Well, it's all about
I don't know what you're talking
all about
What do you mean,
the
good news.
Just hold on a second, I'll tell you. It was all about the red squirrels have always suffered because they've been catching a disease off the grey squirrels, and now they appear to be developing some kind of immunity. Is that right?
Yes. That's one small part of it, but it won't save them, no.
OK.
You've been reading the Mail or something, haven't you? I don't know where you get your news from, really.
Right. OK, thank you both very much. Tell you what, Kate, if he happens to tip overboard on your way over to Branch Island, don't pick him out too quickly. Lovely to see you both. He didn't hear that, did he? That was right. Bye.
Bye. Goodbye. Yes, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yes, that's Bill Oddie on Breakfast TV, yes. He was a bit cantankerous, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he didn't leave any messages on any owl's answer phones.
He's very pessimistic, you know, Bill.
Is he?
Yes.
About the planet.
Yes.
Do you think it's all over?
He thinks it's pretty well all over, yes. And I noticed the other day he said that on account of global warming, that his legs are getting shorter. I was in a studio with him the other day, and he could scarcely get up the steps.
I've heard if he sticks Velcro on his bottom, he can pick fag ends off the floor.
This is the row over the obscene messages left on Andrew Sachs' answering machine by Russell Brand and Jonathan Ross. It's simply unacceptable for the BBC to chase ratings by humiliating an elderly national treasure. Do you want me to drop my trousers now? It's lucky for Russell Brand that he resigned before the outcome of the inquiry, because the BBC were going to throw the bookie wook at him. Making abusive telephone calls is technically a criminal offence. So the lisping TV presenter, Jonathan Ross, could actually end up in prison. If he thinks he has any trouble with his R's now... Ian and Vince, here's yours.
We're back to boom and bust, aren't we?
We are. That's presumably
That's the bust.
oil.
Yes.
That's money, I would guess.
Bankers' bonuses, I think, being counted.
That's Darling's house for sale. You should have had his job.
I think so, too.
The world economy's going down the toilet, is that right?
It
That's
is.
a technical term, Vince.
It is, and it all started, I think, because the banks have messed things up. They've lent money to the wrong people. My bank is the Royal Bank of Scotland, right?
Oh, yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, and they've advanced vast amounts of money to a man called Mr. Deripaska, who's a friend of Lord Mandelson, to buy a nickel company. Now, if we're talking about repossession, we shouldn't be repossessing people's homes. We should be repossessing his yacht, shouldn't we?
This is it. Vince is the man who knows about the economy.
But, I mean, he's so depressing.
Well, this is Doctor Who and this is Doctor Doom.
No, but, I mean, give us a ray of hope, Cock. Just a gleam.
Well, the gleam is that the bankers are enjoying a bit of misery. You know the story that's going around the city at the moment? The difference between a banker and a pigeon? The pigeon can leave a deposit on a Lamborghini.
Listen, an estimate emerged this week of just how much banks around the world have lost so far. Would anyone care to tell me what the figure is?
It's
2.8.
Is it 2.8?
2.8 trillion. Trillion.
To put it in context, with 2.8 trillion pounds, you could buy 2.8 trillion things at a pound shop.
Or 2 years of Jonathan Ross on the BBC.
Which country did the IMF have to bail out this week?
Is it
Hungary.
Or Britain, if you're watching the repeat.
Who should chip in to bail out the IMF, according to Gordon Brown?
Jonathan Ross.
Well, that's it. That's sorted out. That's brilliant. You see? Cheerfulness, practical solutions. Get Paul into the Lib Dems.
Exactly.
That would be a struggle.
What do you mean? Not enough gravitas, like Lembit.
Yeah, that's very cheeky. Yeah.
The answer...
Who bucked the trend this week, recession-wise?
Or is it BP? BP earns 70 million quid a day and everybody's up in arms and surprised, but it's 80p for a bag of crisps in there. It's hardly surprising.
If I can tell you an inside story from the oil industry, and I used to work there, we actually used to make more money from the sandwiches than the petrol.
But surely the petrol's tastier.
Shouldn't they be abandoning the rather intense process of trying to find oil and just be making sandwiches? It's so much more easy.
And in fact, if we can just make cars that run on sandwiches,
Yeah.
the whole thing is solved.
Yeah. The answer's Volkswagen.
The answer's Volkswagen, did you say?
No,
Yes.
that may be another answer, but he's actually... The boy is onto it about BP and
I'm
Shell.
36. I'm 36, Tom Baker.
36. We learned this week that someone else isn't suffering in the recession.
Is it Volkswagen? I'm going to say that all night.
Yeah.
Tony Blair. He's...
Is there anybody here bothering that?
He's become the world's best-paid public speaker.
He made £12 million last year.
Like a man said, 12 million quid since leaving office.
I'm the man, you
You're
see.
the man, yeah.
Boy.
I'm the boy, you're the man. Let's have a standing up competition here.
Which public figure has been hit hard by the fall in property prices?
Is it Volkswagen?
Actually, he's got a point, because Volkswagen has led to the wiping out of hedge funds. So that's actually a very good news story you've alighted on by mistake, I think.
You get into a private eye and lighten on a news story by mistake.
Volkswagen.
No. It was Prince Charles.
Prince Charles?
Yes, £38 million he lost, yes.
How?
Well, he's gone into negative equity on the whole of Cornwall. And Volkswagen was in the news this week.
Oh, I know this one. Prince Charles. This is all to do with hedge funds. Vince won't know this, but... what happens, Vince, is, you see, the hedge fund people targeted Volkswagen, thinking stupidly the share price was going down, but Porsche had secretly bought in, unknown to everybody else. You can do this under German rules, Vince. It's quite interesting, this bit. And anyway, so the share price... It's brilliant, this, of Volkswagen, then rocketed. All the hedge fund people lost all their money.
Oh, it's tragic, isn't it, really? And finally, what has the Bishop of Lewis, the Right Reverend Wallace Benn, had to say this week?
Has it got anything to do with the annual bonfire at Lewis?
No, but it's beyond belief.
Because they burn inappropriate people, don't they, on the bonfire at Lewis?
Yeah.
Well, it's one way of dealing with the old-age pensioners. Because they find after 80, they go up like tinder.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what the Right Reverend Wallace Benn had to say. He said that the credit crunch is God's will.
How does he know?
I think he was guessing, actually. Yeah. I don't know what Richard Dawkins would say about it.
He would say, no, it wasn't. Almost
Probably.
certainly.
Probably.
I put any amount of money on that.
Hey, cocky, ain't cocky. He's speaking for Richard Dawkins now.
I'm his representative on Earth.
But he's on Earth as well.
Yeah, I know, there's been a bit of a mix-up, to be honest. We're looking into it at Human Resources.
In his newsletter, the Bishop of Lewis controversially declared that the credit crunch is God's way of showing his anger at Britain's materialism. And if you think God's angry now, wait till he sits down in front of his telly and finds that Jonathan Ross isn't on. This is one of the lesser stories of the week, as it doesn't involve two idiots baiting a pensioner. After tough negotiations, Britain agreed to help bail out some of the crisis-hit East European countries. Gordon Brown wouldn't reveal what we get in return. But let's just say he's looking forward to next year's Eurovision Song Contest. As the crisis deepened, Gordon Brown flew to Paris to meet President Sarkozy, where, after several hours, they decided to leave an obscene message on the Icelandic Prime Minister's answer phone. So, at the end of that round, 2 points each. Thank you. And now, to round two, the jigsaw of news. Fingers on buzzers. This is the news.
Oh.
Oh!
I buzzed.
Yeah,
Yes.
to be fair.
That was quick. Are you psychic?
Well, I thought you
No, I
showed
know
us the
that
picture and then we buzzed. But if the trick is that we listen to the answer and then buzz... I'm perfectly happy.
Is it about Volkswagen?
Someone has invented a way to make the end of this film work.
Well, they've worked out a formula of how Michael Caine's character gets the gold bullion off the coach that's balancing on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah.
The Royal Society of Chemistry has set a contest in which entrants must supply a solution to the literally cliff-hanging final scene of the Italian Job. Dr. Lewis Dartnell, an astrobiologist, said they could use superconducting magnets to haul the gold to their side of the bus. But then he added, unfortunately, gold is not magnetic. And so it would have to be vaporized to a blindingly hot cloud of plasma. I tried that once. I think it was in the Sontaran experiment.
Did it work?
F***ing disaster.
Was it?
This week, a very stupid posh boy attempted to recreate a scene from the Italian Job by driving his brand-new Mini up some stairs at Bristol University. According to The Sun, he caused the radiator to blow up, the two front tyres to burst, and both airbags to explode, whereas anyone knows he was only supposed to blow the bloody doors up. Fingers on buzzers.
John Prescott, he did a documentary this week on the subject of class.
Yes, yes. Did you catch that, Ian?
No, I missed it.
I'll say it again. John Prescott.
This is John Prescott's documentary in which he drives around the country in his Jaguar or sits in the garden of his large detached house musing on why he's been so cruelly held back by the class system. I like the fact that it showed John Prescott in a different kind of light. He's a man making a serious documentary about Britain's class system, and he's not just a buffoon who never stops eating. Let's have a look at a few clips.
Well, I think that time, don't take the bloody crust off. A group called Chumbawamba. It's usually out of a mug. So I just got up and gave him a tap on the side of his ribs and he went on the floor. And you've been attacked by lads. Again, it's another kind of class attitude. Head button.
Yes. You got a red button as well, didn't you?
Sean Connery.
I don't want to appear to be a snob, but what a dreadful oaf.
He's a very civilised man.
Is it?
John Prescott? Yeah. Yes. What word came up during the filming that John Prescott had never even heard of?
Diet.
Was it bulimia?
Oh, that's unkind.
He brought it up.
He always brought up bulimia. When he met three girls off a London estate...
Oh, he didn't know what a chav was. He hadn't never heard the phrase chav, had he? Or the word chav, rather.
He then wonders what class they regard themselves... Let's have a look.
Well, what class are you then?
I'm just, like, middle class. I don't, like...
You're middle class?
Yeah, I ain't got loads of money. I'm not poor.
I think you're the first one I've seen which I would say you're working class, but you would say you're middle class.
But I don't work.
I agree with her.
She's got a point, John.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
What disconcerting habit does John Prescott have when being interviewed by female journalists, according to Rachel Cook of The Observer?
Does he manage to undo their bras with his mind?
He gets his words in the right order to confuse them.
Well, I'll tell you. Rachel Cook heard from a female colleague. He hoiked one leg over the arm of his chair so that what she politely called his pelvis was pointing at her like a gun. I bet he doesn't do that to John Humphreys. Really. This is John Prescott's documentary on class. Yeah? Prescott recently promoted his autobiography on the QE2. He was actually on the QE2 for two reasons. One, to try and sell his book, and two, ballast. Which means, at the end of this round, it's Ian and Vince with 3, and Paul and Chris with 3.
Ooh, very good.
Round 3 is the connections round. What do these three have in common? Nicolas Sarkozy, Sarah Palin, and Adolf Hitler. Yes?
Sarah Palin, she was in the news recently. She's been impersonated on American television. Adolf Hitler, he was impersonated by Charlie Chaplin in a film called The Great Dictator, and of course has been impersonated since. And the President of France, wasn't there something about a voodoo doll recently that he wasn't very happy about? So the connection is they've all been impersonated or by objects or by other people.
It's dolls, though, isn't it? They've all got dolls.
Adolf Hitler doll?
There's Adolf the doll, big hit in Austria.
Really?
No, I've made that up.
Oh.
You're quite right, actually. They've all been immortalised as dolls. Sarah Palin action figures went on sale last month, soon after she was chosen as John McCain's running mate. There's the Tomb Raider Palin, ideal for visiting John McCain next year.
Well, this is quite a good moment for Ian because he fancies her. Well, you got one of these? Have you got one of these dolls yet, Ian?
No, but I'm getting one.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the slutty schoolgirl. Oh!
I wanted to meet you so much when I was a kid. So much! And now look at it.
You're so let down.
My dreams are shattered.
One Sarah Palin fan told the Boston Herald, "She's hot. She's put the hot in hot." Yes, but she's also put the alas in Alaska. Meanwhile, John McCain was at a rally this week and decided to introduce Joe the plumber to the crowds. Here he is.
Joe's with us today. Joe, where are you? Where is Joe? Is Joe here with us today? Joe, I thought you were here today. All right. Well, you're all Joe the plumber, so all of you stand up and say, "I thank you."
I know what it's like, though. What? I think the plumber's coming round.
Adolf Hitler was recently recreated in doll form by the founder of a well-known London knitting circle. What did the designer call her woolen creation?
Adorable
Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler? Oh.
Yeah.
Look. What? Someone's put some mascara on a cashew nut.
Why is he wearing a lime green wrap?
And there's also the Dalek doll. And the knitting, it goes knit 8, pearl 8, exterminate. Oh, well.
To be fair, there aren't many knitting Dalek jokes around. You have to... Yeah, there aren't a great number. That's the best one, to be honest.
I crochet.
Oh. There's two.
Two.
The French President Nicolas Sarkozy has been immortalised as a doll, though it's a voodoo doll. Oh, look, they've managed to make him life-size, Paul.
Pre-pinned for the lazy voodoo practitioner.
Or magnetic pins. If it's a metal thing, don't have to do anything. Yeah. Just introduce the pins to the doll over a distance of 12 feet.
But wouldn't that reduce the pleasure?
I've been a fool. I completely withdraw my remarks.
So how has the French president reacted?
He's stewed at it.
It's not just his image, is it? It's also the bloke off the toilet doors whose image has been nicked. I'm furious. I'm absolutely furious about the whole thing, and so is my wife.
You can also get a Tom Baker doll. On sale for $12.99. Or just 3 Venusian quarks. Look, interchangeable heads. And if you don't like your Tom Baker doll, just wait until it turns into a Sylvester McCoy doll. Then you'll really hate it.
You don't think of the doctors as bitching about each other's generation, do you?
Time now for the missing words round, which this week...
Does it have to be so far away?
I don't see very well these days, you know.
Don't you?
No.
Did you mention that before the auto cue came out?
And yet, oddly enough, you know, Vince, as my sight diminishes, I get on much better with people.
Do you?
Now that I can't see them.
And partly because they're not there.
As a matter of fact, I've just started a fling with my wife.
Have you? If she finds out, she'll be furious.
Time now for the missing words round, which this week features as its guest publication, Sheep. And we start with, I've given up what, said the Dalai Lama.
Sex?
Did you say fags?
Free Tibet!
Giving up hope, is it? Giving up hope for Tibet?
Yes, I think you're right, yeah.
A pope for Tibet. No.
Given up hope! Fish fingers on Friday.
Did he say fish fingers on Friday? I don't like fish. Can we have crumble? Can we have apple crumble?
OK, the answer is he's given up on China. Yeah. The Dalai Lama says he stopped trying to persuade China to give greater rights to Tibet. According to The Independent on Sunday, shortly before the Olympics, Tibet saw the worst violence in 20 years. But wasn't the beach volleyball super? All those jaunty buttocks.
I used to go to school with a bloke called Jaunty Buttocks. He was from Newcastle. Jaunty Buttocks.
Next, what can be easily recognised by the long neck, jug head and big ears?
Noddy's close friends. The Shropshire sheep.
Ah!
You always sound as though you're related to them. It's a breed of sheep.
Right?
Are we going to go through them all?
No! I'll tell you, it's a blue-faced Leicester.
A blue?
I was at school with a boy called Blueface.
Yeah. He had breathing difficulties,
Yeah,
didn't
that's
he?
the one, yeah.
Next, Visiting Aliens Handbook, Rule 1. What?
Be careful of Tom Baker. Don't say, take me to your leader to a Lib Dem.
Very simple, no stopping.
What on earth at all?
No, they do. Well, they just get off as fast as they can.
Do they?
Well, they do. Yes. According to the Sunday Times, the latest UFO files have been released by the government. Well, I say released. They were left on the 927 from Waterloo. Next, salty muffins. What?
Salty muffins, warm heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's about eating coffee and muffins.
You can't eat coffee. Can you?
Yeah.
The thing's that bad, are we now that bad that coffee's become a solid?
Yeah. Since we started this recording, money's been abolished.
Has it?
It's a barter system out there.
Well, I can't understand it. I've got a note here, but it's got Russell Brand's face on it. I mean, what's going on?
The answer?
It's bad for you. It's a third of your daily intake of salt you have if you have a coffee and a muffin.
That's a lot to fit into that space.
The answer is alert. Yes.
Any particular reason why they were alert?
Yes. I'll tell you now.
Oh, OK.
This is a report from a salt awareness group. Warning, breakfast muffins are much saltier than some fried breakfasts. And they advise people might be better off choosing a low-salt option from a greasy spoon. Oh, that'll be the pepper. Next, having read and reread Sheep from cover to cover, I have now decided what?
Having reread Sheep from cover to cover, I've now decided I'm not bothering with your publication anymore. I realise I've wasted my life. I've spent 15 years living in this bedsit here in Walthamstow, getting your magazine once a month, thinking that one day it's going to be good. I turn to the centrefold, it's the same old Sheep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give up that subscription now, and I'm going to go to Cows Weekly.
The answer is I thoroughly enjoyed it. Bah. Next, the world's worst boxer?
Is it knock self out?
Comes last at Crufts.
The answer is throws in the towel.
Oh, well done, yeah, frozen toe, yeah. Very good.
This is Peter Buckley, who is finally retiring after losing a record 256 fights. And finally, what? A common cause of variable crimp.
Crimp. Yeah, so variable crimp. It's when your crimp suddenly goes a bit variable, you know. No, you're walking down the street like this and suddenly you think, hello, there's my crimp gone, my crimp's gone. It's gone a bit variable. And if it happens in a sheep, they hate it because they can't understand. They haven't got brains like us.
Well, no, the answer is parasites.
Bad day.
Yeah. So, the final scores are Ian and Vince have 4, and Paul and Chris have 5.
Oh, yeah.
But before we go, there's just time for the caption competition.
Mrs. Ramesses denies long wait in accident and emergency.
You're not my mummy.
Is it Burns night?
And I leave you with the news that in a galaxy far, far away, Darth Vader advises the rest of the Federation to give it 10 minutes. At London Fashion Week, Naomi Campbell's new PA discovers what happens if you put the wrong flowers in her dressing room. And as he attempts to escape the media frenzy, Russell Brand relaxes on a beach in Mexico. Good night.
Well, late news just in. Top Gear's back on BBC Two tomorrow night, and Michael Parkinson's hitting the racetrack at 8. Next, Pacino after De Niro, the ultimate police manhunt in Heat.
What went right?
It all went right.
Just raise your weight just a little.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Oh, come on, that's how you got the job in the first place.
I must say, he's got a nice light touch.
Yeah.